Welcome to your weekly Seize the Day cruise show powered by Travel with Brigitte. Now let's turn it over to our hosts, Karla Mesa and Julie Williams. Julie, what's the topic today?
And I'm Julie Williams, along with Travel with Brigitte cruise expert Karla Mesa on the Seize the Day cruise show. Welcome. Today, we're going to look at dining. Some new policies, some old policies, but all relevant policies for today. And of course, our cruise expert Karla knows all about everything cruising. So tell us about like the top, just say 4 cruise lines or so that are not necessarily top, but popular, and what their dining policies are, because I know it does vary sometimes by cruise ship.
Yes, you're right. It does vary by cruise ship. We're gonna talk about 4 of like our main cruise lines that we usually book our clients on. So that's gonna be Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Norwegian Cruise Lines, and Princess Cruises. A lot of these cruise lines have very similar dining policies, especially if you're an avid cruiser. You'll realize that a lot of them are similar, but some of them have some very specific rules, and that's why we're gonna get into it today.
So we're gonna cover like dining room and also specialty dining, both?
Yeah, definitely. Everything dining.
Good. So let's start with Carnival.
Yeah, so one of the typical dining, what people think about is obviously dinner. You know, a lot of the times you're kind of like out in the buffet or doing something a little more casual during the day, breakfast, lunch. But for dinner specifically, you usually have a main dining room. So for Carnival, the way they do it, they specifically give you the options of early dining, late dining, or a flexible your time dining is what they call it. So usually you'll have the option, depending on when you book your cruise. If you're booking ahead of time, you may have all 3 as an option. If you're booking later, closer to the actual sailing date, you might be forced with an option. You might not get to choose.
So if you have, say, early dining, and then one day the excursion or the time on shore goes later, can you change for that other day to go from like 6 to 8 or something like that?
You can't necessarily change it. Like you're not going to go into your account and change that. But there is usually some actual flexibility when you're there in person and you walk up to the staff member. If there's availability, they will usually seat you.
Mm-hmm. And also, I guess you can go to your time if it's flexible, or maybe you need a reservation for that.
So that is a little more flexible. It is like you're kind of walking in on your own time, but you have to realize because of that, they're not expecting you exactly, right? So they don't have you in this slot of, oh, this amount of people are going to come early and then this amount of people are going to come later. So you may have to wait. Those are the circumstances where it is more likely that you'll be told, okay, sure, we'll seat you soon, but you're going to have to wait, maybe 20 minutes. Or if you're a larger party, it might even be longer, depending if that's like a peak time.
Yeah, I know on Princess, which we can get to, I seem to remember once, I think all of the dining might have been flexible, but I do know that we went and we would just we were in a suite and or a mini suite, and we would just get into like a separate line and we would be seated before the people who were in the other line.
Yes, so some cruise lines do have that. They have priority pretty much.
Yeah. That was nice. But I also like when we were in a suite and they had a separate dining room, and, that was really cool. But, those days are like, you can't always afford that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely true. But
they're indulgence times.
Yeah, that is an option that a lot of cruise lines offer now, where you're right, where if you are staying in a higher like class of, like a suite or even like a certain area of the ship, like a dedicated area of the ship, you'll have your own restaurant that you can dine at that's exclusive to you and to those other passengers.
And what about the food? I mean, should we we really want this certain meal, but we want the chicken too or something, and we can't eat both, we just can't eat 2 meals, and will one of them be on the schedule tomorrow if we don't eat it today?
So usually for Carnival Cruise Line specifically, yes, in the main dining room, the menu is going to be pretty consistent. You don't really have to worry about that. Like, oh, this is its own menu tonight. And if I don't get it tonight, I miss out. I don't get to another opportunity to try it. So that is one thing that's nice about Carnival is they have their pretty I don't want to say generic, but their typical dining room that they always use with a very consistent menu that's going to have, like you said, it's going to have your steak, it's going to have your chicken, it's going to have your fish in some variety. And they'll usually have that. If you're on a longer cruise, they might not have it like the entire sailing. They might have it like for 2 or 3 days and then maybe change it up depending on what they have on the ship or what the port. Sometimes, that makes a big difference on what your menu is too. Depending on your itinerary and the cruise line, they might actually try to accommodate that and have a little bit more of the flavors of those cultures and those areas you're visiting. That's usually on longer sailings though.
Yeah. I know that it wasn't Carnival, but I was on another cruise line and I love lamb. And they didn't happen to have lamb available that night. And I didn't feel like chicken and I'm allergic to beef, so, I asked if I could get lamb. Well, they couldn't get it that night, but the next night they had lamb made special for me. I mean, that's really cool. I don't know which lines do that. I don't know if they all do, but it's something that you definitely, should ask no matter what cruise line, if you're like me. In fact, I ask anyway, because they might serve lamb once and I get it maybe 3 times. So I always ask in advance. And it's been my experience. But I usually cruise one cruise line, but it's been my experience that they usually work to accommodate that.
They do. And if they, again, speaking about Carnival specifically, maybe it's not something that they would regularly have in the main dining room, but they can definitely recommend maybe a specialty dining restaurant for you that does have that on the menu. And those, that's a great way to spend your evening as well. If you do want a nicer night out or just something different, not the same environment restaurant meal every night. If you want to take one of those nights to do a specialty dining restaurant, a lot of people love to do that. You'll usually have some kind of steakhouse, maybe some kind of specialty seafood, or again, some kind of specialty, like different kind of cuisine, depending on like the itinerary or like the good ingredients maybe that port has. So that's a really great option too. Again, that's something very similar depending on your planning. You usually want to make those reservations sooner than later. That's not really something that you're going to want to wait and just walk up to. It's possible that they have some availability if you're a small party or it's earlier in the evening or a very, you're not there during a peak time and it's not a full cruise, you might be able to walk up. But usually with specialty dining restaurants, those reservations fill up fast.
And they all have different policies. I know if you're a no-show for some, you might have to pay for it. Or if you are, especially if they had like a cover charge and everybody pays the same, you might be charged for it. Or,
yes.
And also I think like if you're late, they'll only wait so long and then they give the reservation away and they charge you anyway or something like that.
Yes, they definitely work more like traditional restaurants. It's not as much leniency, again, because it's not open. It is open to everyone, but it's a lot more exclusive. It's a lot more limited, so they can't be as loose with the rules.
But most of them have an app, right, that you can reserve specialty dining as well as, do everything else. So what about Carnival?
Yeah, the Carnival definitely has their hub app. It's a decent app for sure. If you have, especially if you actually have the Wi-Fi package and you don't just kind of use the Wi-Fi that's provided for the app. Mm-hmm. But yes, you can definitely do a lot more than just booking your reservations there, but that's the best area to do it because you'll be able to see each restaurant. You'll be able to see where it is on the ship to make sure you're planning accordingly as far as times. If maybe you're planning this on a day that you'll be out on a port, an excursion, you want to make sure that you're actually going to make it on time if you're taking up this reservation. But yeah, the app on Carnival is pretty great. If not, you usually have a concierge or, a lot of staff around that could help assist you with that as well.
My last cruise was on Royal Caribbean, and I had a full suite, and I took advantage of that the suite restaurant every night because some of the food might have been the same or all of it, I don't know, but the service was impeccable, and they had cookies at 4 and all these kind of special things that you don't normally have. I think they even had a happy hour.
That's nice.
What about their dining? Because it was my only time on Royal Caribbean, and I just basically went to that special dining room every night. So how do they handle the regular dining?
So Royal Caribbean is somewhat similar as well in the sense that they have a traditional dining room, and they're going to have 2 options. So you're either going to have traditional dining or my time dining. So traditional dining is an actual assigned time. So it's not a window, it's a smaller window, but it's like an actual assigned time every night with an assigned table. So you'll even sit at the same table every night. Carnival used to be similar. I've experienced that on Carnival, but they've kind of moved away from being that scheduled. And then my time dining is pretty much being able to walk in anytime during the dining hours. But a lot of people still really, it depends on what kind of traveler you are. Some people really like that set schedule, that set table, and you usually have the same waiter. I know that's the case on most cruise lines. It's usually assigned to your party. And some people really like that. Other people love the flexibility of, I have no idea what this day has to hold, and I have no idea what time I'm going to be getting to dinner, and they don't want to be tied down to that. So,
well, and one of the convenient things with that is, like on my last cruise, Dan, the owner of Travel with Brigitte, was there, and also another friend of mine. But we all go and do our own thing. But having dinner at 6 when we scheduled it, we kind of all came together, and sometimes one would be a little bit later, whatever, but the others were there, and in that restaurant they held it for us, of course. And so we didn't have to try to connect what time is dinner and all that. We all knew that right around 6 we were to head to the dining room, and somebody would always be there a little early, and so it was really convenient because we all liked doing different things while we're on the ship. So it was very convenient to have a time for our own benefit that we all met.
Yeah, see, that's great. And Royal Caribbean actually does suggest to do the my time dining, or I'm sorry, the traditional dining over my time, because it does get busy. It does, like you said, 6 o'clock, that's peak dinner time. A lot of people, whether you're older and want to be done with your day, or you're a family and the kids need dinner and bed and rest, that's dinner is a small window. A lot of people are going to go right around the same time. So, and if you're on that my time, flexible, can come in whenever, you're going to have to wait. The people that have a 6 o'clock set table reservation time, essentially for the whole week, for the whole sailing, that they're going to get priority.
Right. And I could see from thinking from a restaurant point of view, to know how much food you have to be starting to cook at this point, because you know how many people are coming now, is, you can pace out your cooking a little bit more accurately, I think, if you have an idea of how many people are coming at what time. So when it's all like my time and they don't have any reservations with, I believe one is like that, then I can't imagine how they handle it in the kitchen. But
yeah, right. No, I'm sure
I enjoy that they know how to do their job, right?
Yeah, to have a hidden camera in there would be really interesting. I've always wanted what we're gonna do. I wonder if we can do some kind of episode on the background, what's going on back there. Because that's one thing that's always fascinated me about cruise ships in general, just so much going on there, but so much of it is behind the scenes. So to know would be really cool.
That would be really cool to talk to somebody in the kitchen staff, like the chef. Maybe we can arrange that. That would be really cool.
Yeah. That'd be
and
nice.
How do they handle this at the last minute? Like, there have been times when I've asked for lamb and they're like, well, we're not serving that tonight, but we'll get you some. It's like, they go out of their way to find something just for me, but at the same time, I want to interject this because I don't know if you had it on. A lot of times I go gluten-free, and to know ahead of time is real helpful for them, because that's so unique well, it's not that unique anymore, but they it helps them to plan ahead for a certain kind of breads or breading.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, and Royal Caribbean also utilizes their app for a lot of the things that you can do on the ship, and one of them being your dining reservations and preferences. So you can go in there and put that information so that they do know ahead of time, and that is very helpful.
Okay, so and you might be able to change it by the day. You know, you finally got tickets to a show, so you're going to go to the early dining, you know, or something like that. I think, you know, honestly, even if they say they don't do that, I think all cruise lines are somewhat flexible.
They're flexible.
They have rules, but they really want to accommodate us.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing, is they have these rules to help accommodate as much people as possible. But when you have your one-off little instances, if they can make it work for you, they will. They're amazing at that.
So be helpful for them and make reservations when you can. And so, like, what about the menu? We know that it's different stuff. A lot of times the same stuff every night, but different stuff, say, at the buffet. But then the My Time dining, that's sort of like a restaurant. And the other time dining is set menus of, you know, Monday it's this and Tuesday it's that. So is the My Time still Monday it's this, Tuesday it's that? Or is it more flexible food options like the buffet?
That's going to be more of your traditional like dining room menu. So like you're going to have like your starters, your entrees, and your desserts, and maybe a few other things. So that is going to be like your typical traditional dining menu. But you also, again, with Royal Caribbean, you have all of these other specialty dining restaurants as another option as well. So you'll have like I said, the main dining room, or you could do the buffet if you wanted to, and then you have specialty dining. And Royal Caribbean is actually, I will say, one of the cruise lines that I hear getting the most compliments when it comes to their food quality and their food options. So that is going to be a cruise line that I'm going to highly suggest you branch out outside of the main dining room and try a few things, try a few other locations.
Yeah, there was one specialty dining on this Royal Caribbean cruise I went to, a really, really acclaimed steakhouse, I think it was. Mostly beef, right? Well, it was very expensive, but our group, everyone but me, went for lunch, and it was a lot cheaper. I think it might have been like $16.
Yes, that's a very good point.
And you paid the one fee, and I didn't go because I didn't want to pay that much for, I'm allergic to beef. So depending on what they would have, you know, I didn't want to spend that much money on lunch when I didn't know if I could really eat anything, or if I had some other option, it might not have been good. They're known for their steaks and burgers, that type of thing. So, but everybody raved about it, but they had a really nice time, got great service, got right in, but they had reservations, but it was for lunchtime. So that's another option if you want to try a restaurant. And there's somebody like me that's going with you, but like maybe just doesn't really love steak, but I mean, they'll have it, but it's not like their favorite, you know. And the same thing if someone doesn't really care that much for seafood, you know, then, you know, if you guys go at lunch, you can all go, and it costs less, and the service is often better because there's fewer people there. So
yeah, that's a great point. I know Carnival definitely offered that before as well. I don't think it's necessarily standard across the board, but a lot of these specialty restaurants will offer a discounted menu at lunchtime if they're open for lunch. I have experienced that quite a few times.
You know, there was a cruise I went on, NCL, to Alaska out of Seattle, and I believe it was like in 2004. And at the time, I think everything was always fixed dining, but NCL introduced freestyle dining, which I think was unheard of. But I think that meant all of it was freestyle, like all of it is your time or any time or whatever you call it, dining. And I don't remember like the menu options changing. I don't remember what the menu options were, but it was like we always went, and we didn't even have to necessarily have a reservation back then on this one. And we just always went, you know, whenever we wanted to, like we're at a restaurant, we had a 20-minute wait or whatever, like at any restaurant. Do they NCL now? Do they? I'm sure they still have it because everyone's doing it. But do they have any fixed dining times as well, or are they just freestyle?
So they are now a freestyle dining concept, and they definitely run things more like a traditional restaurant would, as far as having shorter reservation hold times and really enforcing no-show fees and no-show like consequences. So yeah, you're right. Right now they're doing a freestyle dining, so they don't have fixed seating or fixed times. All guests are allowed to, choose when they would like to dine, essentially. So they do have they still have their main dining area. So that's, part of your package that you're already paying for. So you are free to enter that area at whatever times. That's going to be, again, your traditional dinner menu. That's, all included that you can order, 1, 2, or 3 of. And then you're still going to have the option of all the specialty restaurants. But again, this Norwegian Cruise Line, they're really emphasizing reservations. Like, these restaurants do actually take some strategic planning there. It's not going to be as easy to just go on a whim of like, oh, we feel like dinner now, because you will deal with wait times.
I'm sure, because I honestly, from their perspective, I don't see how it could be any other way.
Right.
So, but you can make advanced reservations there?
Yes, you can definitely make advanced reservations. They're not all open at the same time. It will depend. So the way that Norwegian is doing it, it's kind of like dependent on your stateroom category. So higher fares get priority to book, and then as they make their way down, eventually all staterooms have availability to book. But it's kind of one of those things where you kind of get what's left over. And that doesn't necessarily mean, you'll completely miss out on, maybe some specialty restaurant or a certain time. But it does mean you just need to really, once your time comes, you want to really know what's important, what you want to book right then and there, or if there is, if you do feel like you have some flexibility as far as like, you might not have a lot to do one day and you're going to say, okay, we're just going to do a main dining room that day, but you might want to be on the lookout if there was a cancellation, because again, they are enforcing these no-show fees, and you do have shorter reservation hold time. So if someone is going to cancel, they have to cancel. They can't just not show up because they didn't feel like it, like you kind of would on a typical cruise. You have your set time, but if you don't feel like it, you just don't go. That's not happening on Norwegian.
And they're one of the ones that will charge you if you don't show up, right?
Exactly.
They have probably some kind of fee, because I think because they don't typically have like a specialty restaurant. They don't have like a cover charge thing. So they probably just have a set cancellation fee.
Yes. So again, people are going to be proactive about that. So if there was a window that, if there was a restaurant that's not available on the day that you wanted, keep looking at that, because if, someone else's plans change, they have to let them know.
What about Princess? Princess is, I love Princess myself. I don't do like all the big slides and stuff. And I love that it's a little bit slower paced, and the service I get at Princess and the food is usually pretty good. I didn't even appreciate how good the food was till I went on Royal Caribbean, which was decent, but it wasn't Princess.
Yeah. So I think what makes Princess different is they're usually smaller ships. They do have a few newer ships that are the bigger, like, mega ships that we're used to with Royal Caribbean. But Princess is usually a smaller ship. It is usually less people, and they're very quality focused. Very quality focused. They also do a lot of partnerships with the, like, local businesses at the ports that they that the itineraries attend. So they're really good at getting like new fresh ingredients every time that they dock, and incorporating that into the day's meal. So I think that has a lot to do with why their food also stands out for a lot of people. I think again, Princess is more of like it's a higher quality, and Royal Caribbean you just have a lot more options. Right. So
from what I've seen, Princess also has an older demographic. So I imagine that just as an older person, you are a little bit more set in your ways, and you want to set your time for dinner and know that's when it's going to be. When you're the older generations, that's just been my experience. I don't know what I'm talking about. I've just gotten a little older of late. And that's just seems to be what I've observed with that group, as opposed to the family groups or the young people on a singles trip or something.
Yeah, Princess has done a great job at kind of appeasing, both audiences as far as their dining policy. So theirs is called Dine My Way. And it's very similar in the sense that you can make you can set your time for throughout the cruise, but kind of like you've mentioned before, if something comes up during the day or you book a last minute excursion, you can go on the app and change that every day by the day if you need to. So they are allowing some flexibility while still allowing you to keep that reservation if you'd like to as well.
Oh, and then before I forget, I want to talk to you about a free downloadable reference guide that we have. But I want to let you know in just a second, I'm going to ask you one last question about my absolute favorite thing about Princess Dining. Okay, so this downloadable reference is basically all the notes of things about the different cruise lines we talked about today and some of their dining policies. Policies can change, that. And obviously we didn't talk about every cruise line, but you kind of have a good feel for what's out there. And you can get some notes about some of the specifics of the cruise lines. Maybe you want to choose which cruise line based on that. Anyway, it's a one-page summary, and you can get it in the show notes, or you can get it at travelwithbrigitte.com.
You're listening to the Seize the Day Cruise Show, powered by Travel with Brigitte. We'd love to hear what you have to say about this topic, so be sure to leave a comment below.
Okay, here's your last question, Karla. My favorite, Ocean Now delivery. So Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Ocean Now Delivery is a great perk of the Princess Medallion. If you don't know much about that, you can watch our Princess episode. But the Princess Medallion is a really, really unique piece of tech that Princess Cruises has come out with, and it replaces your room key essentially. But it does way more. It's very similar to like an Apple Tag, so it does keep track of your location, but that's how they were able to introduce Ocean Now Delivery. Mm-hmm. So having your medallion on you and using the app to, order a drink and a burger to the pool allows that staff member to see exactly where they need to go on the ship to drop it off.
I've had that by the pool. I've had that, like they brought me pizza at the pool. I mean, how nice.
Yeah, that's amazing. This might just be a rumor, but I think I have heard that they are changing some of the rules, and they're actually going to start limiting the areas where they will deliver to. And I think that might be one of them. But again, this might be a rumor. I saw this on a very random Facebook page. I haven't received any confirmation of it. And these rumors they happen around this time of year, end of year, because a lot of people will make policy changes. So we'll see what comes in the new year, if there is
I can't imagine they change bringing food to the pool, because that's probably one of the most popular places.
I know. The only thing I can imagine that they would is maybe if there was an accident, maybe if someone got hurt. But other than that, you're 100% right. That's probably the most popular example, and one of the main reasons a lot of people love using it. They don't want to give up their pool chairs.
I would expect if they had any changes, it would be like everybody else is doing with stuff, that they would start charging for it or something. Whereas it's free now. I mean, you would tip, but at least it was free when I did it last. And, that was how nice.
That may be what it is, because I know that I think they're changing up their packages right now. So that might be what it is. It might be that you have to have a certain package to receive it now.
Is there anything else you wanted to add before we close?
I don't think so. Not today. I mean, like I said, we talked about just the 4 popular cruise lines that we probably quote the most, but there are so many other cruise lines that are even more dining focused. Some that I can think of off the top of my head is like Oceania. If you're a foodie and that's your whole thing, as you want to eat as much great quality high end food as possible, Oceania is one of those cruise lines where that's where you go to do it. I know Celebrity has a slightly different policy about their dining rooms. You're not limited to one main dining room. You actually have a few to choose from. So yeah, they're depending on the cruise line, depending on if all of what we talked about seemed too boring for you, too, day-to-day schedule, like there are all kinds of different policies with different cruise lines that we can definitely find something that works for you.
You know what I miss that I don't think anybody does anymore? I don't think I've been on a cruise that did it since like the early 90s maybe, is the midnight buffet, where not just having food open, but where they've got all these pastries that are, they've got a pastry built in the shape of the ship, and they've just got all these different pastries, and you go through the line and take pictures first, and then you get to go through the line and eat it. And it was just like, it's fabulous. It's worth staying up for, but it seems to be one of the things that went by the wayside, along with like dance hosts. I miss that too.
Yeah, no, I that seems so nice, because I know there are times for me, like I'm a night owl. So yeah, times on the cruise ship, your option is like pizza, and maybe they have the ice cream machine open, which is like, good enough, but at the same time, when you just had everything at your fingertips all day, you're kind of like, this is it? This is my only option? Like, I would think I could have a little more.
Yeah, or you get home from a day at sea, so you missed dinner. I mean, a day in port, and you missed dinner, and you come in and say, seriously, there's no food?
Yeah.
I have to order from the room menu, I mean, that's like, you're never supposed to get hungry on a cruise ship.
Exactly.
You should be dining 24/7, some kind of food 24/7. All right. It's been fun talking to you about this today, Karla, and great talking to you too. Until next week, we are Karla and Julie, encouraging you to seize the day.
Thank you for joining us today on the Seize the Day Cruise Show, powered by Travel with Brigitte. If you enjoyed today's episode, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to add your own 2 cents below. By the way, you can book a cruise 24/7 at bookings@travelwithbrigitte.com. Let us show you how we can get you a better value than you'd get on your own. And join us again next week on the Seize the Day Cruise Show.